And you are live.
Good morning, everyone. Today is April 8th, 2021. It's East Hampton Village Board Planning Board meeting today. Before I start my meeting, I would first like to thank Beth. I understand it's your last meeting today. You've really helped us out a lot with this board, and I really appreciate what you've done.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. Good luck with where you're going, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate
All right.
it.
Good luck, Beth.
Thank you.
Good luck. Yes.
All right, next, I'd like to welcome Carrie Doyle to our board. Welcome aboard, Carrie.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Okay.
Forward
Nice
to working
smile.
with you all.
Thank you. All right, so we'll go, everybody have a chance to read over the minutes for March 11th.
Yeah,
Yes,
Yes.
I'd like to have a motion.
I'll make
I'll
that motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Fine.
Pam, can we read what's on the agenda for this morning, please?
Just the one application, which is JABR LLC at 209 Further Lane.
Is the applicant on the line?
Good evening, good morning, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Brian DeSessa, attorney for the applicant, 2462 Main Street, Suite 7, Bridgehampton, New York.
Okay.
We were here a few months ago. One of the items that were requested was an environmental assessment form to be filed. Just to refresh your recollection, the property is located at 209 Further Lane in the village of East Hampton. It's improved the single-family dwelling, accessory structures, and we're here asking the board to amend a decision that was made by the planning board on August 4th of 1977. In that decision, there was a note with respect to driveway curb cuts and limiting to one curb cut on the northern portion of the property in that 77 decision. Since then, in approximately 1980 or 81, the best that we can determine based on aerials, a second curb cut was added to the subject property to make it a U-shaped driveway to go in or out. And since approximately 81, several C of Os have been updated on the property where that was a condition on the survey provided to the village. The most recent, my apologies there, the most recent being on May 10th of 2018, the last updated certificate of occupancy indicating the property being in substantial conformance. My client purchased at that time when we did get the updated C of O on behalf of the client. And subsequent to that, the client sought to do some renovation alteration work. And it was discovered that there is this condition note in the 1977 planning decision. In a review of title, there's no covenants and restrictions. There's no easements that prohibit the two curb cuts. I did file a freedom of information to see in the last 15 years if there were any accidents on that street or on that corner. The point being, if I were able to ascertain anything, my position is that it's not an unsafe condition based on that. The intersection's governed by stop signs at that area. There's clear lines of sight. And so I come before you on behalf of my client looking to make that amendment to something that, was reviewed and thought out in 2018, thought we were purchasing with what was there, obtaining an updated C of O, not having the knowledge that there was this reference in the 77 decision. So I'm asking the board to amend the 77 decision to allow the existing driveways as that condition exists today and since 81 to remain.
Okay, thank you. Anybody in the board want to ask any questions?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Billy wrote us a memo dated December 24th, and there are a couple of points that he made that perhaps it's the way I heard it, but that don't coincide with what we just heard in summary from the attorney for the applicant. So I wonder, Billy, if you could clarify. Those two items are the date that your note says the second curb cut was installed, which in your memo says after August of 1994. And my other question is that in traveling, that the stop signs with regard to safety, that your observation was not in concurrence with the attorney's statements just now. Am I wrong in those two concepts?
My research concluded, Billy Hajak for the Village of East Hampton. My research concluded from looking at aerials and surveys that are on file is that the second southerly curb cut appears to have been installed sometime after 1994. I believe I included at least the survey to my memo, which didn't depict a second curb cut on the southerly portion of the property. And while I haven't pulled any of the accident data for the area, we could certainly do that if necessary, if the board would like to. I did a sort of a test, and I sat in my vehicle, pulling out of the southerly driveway, and the stop sign at Further Lane is not visible. So people are stopping if you're obeying the law and you're stopping at the stop sign, you're actually accelerating through the intersection to make a right onto Cross Highway. To me, it seemed to be less than ideal sight distance and conditions for, it seemed like a logical, requirement that the board imposed in the 70s, which said, don't put a second driveway or a driveway curb cut near the intersection of Further Lane.
Right.
I can't speak to the C of Os that have been issued. Obviously, that was an error on the part of the village, but
Right. So because there was no covenant referring to that 77 edition at the time that the current owners purchased the house, but at the end of your memo, you asserted something that Ms. Baldwin has brought to our attention in the past, particularly in this neighborhood, which is that the circumstances, whether they change or not with regard to a board changing a prior planning board's ruling. And but your memo says at the end that circumstances exist that warrant modifying a prior board's decision. Was that your conclusion?
That is my conclusion. Yes.
Okay.
Were you asking Billy or the applicants?
I was asking Billy with reference.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was my last.
No, my point is that, the change of circumstances has been a bar that's been used by the board in the past. And
Right.
I'm just reminding you that you should be sure that the applicant has demonstrated a change of circumstances.
Okay.
To me, that means the site conditions have changed or some, element of the property or the surrounding area has changed, which would warrant you deviating from a prior decision.
Right. Okay.
Whether or not a legal issue arises, that's beyond my scope,
Bruce?
Yeah, I'll just make a couple comments. I sat at that intersection a couple months ago as well when this was on our agenda. And, the intersection is a lot closer in person than it looks on the survey. So if you actually sit there and sort of walk around or, interact with that intersection, it does feel a lot closer than what we see depicted on the Brulski survey. Also from the area, you can see the stop sign on Further Lane in the westbound lane. It is tucked quite a bit around the corner. So if anybody heading westbound making a turn onto Cross Highway, there is, very, very limited, if no site relationship there coming out of that driveway. So, that's just, those are my observations just from hanging out there on site. I don't know how anybody else feels about that, but I do think it's that new curb cut is very close to that intersection.
And I have to agree with you. I spent some time down there, and this determination was made, when, Billy? From the
Originally-
70?
1977.
Yeah. You know, that was the reason that was made at that time. I have to agree with Bruce. It is close. And, you know, if anybody else wants to chime in here,
I suspect the foliage was vastly different in 77. And I find it very difficult now. I'm with you and Bruce that the visuals are very challenging. But I suspect that the ruling in 77 was made at a time when the visuals were very different.
Right.
Also, that the planning board at that time was making decisions with great foresight. From what I have been able to surmise is that they were looking not only at safety then, which back in 77 was an entirely minimal compared to today's issues, but really just also trying to preserve the character of the community. That foresight I really admire, and I think both in terms of the foliage and the traffic, it was quite minimal in 77 compared to now, you know.
Right.
But it's really unfortunate that for the people who bought the property that that there was no covenant referred to in the deed transfer at the time that they did. You know, that's unfortunate for them, but maybe there's a compromise with regard to foliage and site that would, under the circumstances, because they were not aware of that determination, maybe there could be a compromise.
I would like to provide some traffic information. It seems like that being the concern that I'm hearing from the board. So if I could provide the board with like a traffic engineer, not my opinion as an attorney, but you know, on behalf of the applicant, of the sightline report or something along those lines, in terms of scientific or technical data that the board could base its decision on.
you willing to do that?
I am, sir. Yes.
Okay. Carrie, you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I mean, I drive there a lot. I feel like people are pretty trepidatious at the stop sign that's been there now. You know, everybody sort of pauses who goes first. So I don't see people whipping around that corner. I happen to like the 2 curb cuts because I feel like it gets the landscapers' trucks off the road so the bikers don't have to swerve around those giant landscaping trucks. So that's my opinion on those curb cuts.
I think we should leave it open, and he can come back with the traffic study. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Yes, I do have one question. Am I mistaken in believing that the property owners own up to the edge of a road and further lane?
Not up to the road. There is some village property landward closer to further. So there's some right of ways that the village has on that area.
I mean,
Yeah, the
Some reduction in
the road, the improvements just cut through the corner of the property on the south, would be the southwesterly corner on that intersection. There's a couple of feet, it's about 4 or 5 feet of pavement that extends onto the property. Other than that, there is a narrow right of way.
Okay. So the applicant is in favor of doing a traffic study?
We'll do that intersection cleaned up and provide information for you.
Okay, so we'll leave the hearing open. Bruce, everybody agreement with this?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Sure.
Walker?
good.
Okay. O'Brien?
Yes.
Okay. So that's it for us on the agenda today, right, Pam?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'll have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good luck, Beth.
Thanks.
Good luck, Beth.
I'm sure I'll be seeing you.